The boy I had raised for 3 years turned out not to be mine. The woman I had stood by and comforted for 5 years had run off with my so-called best friend. This betrayal left me drowning in debt and facing a serious health diagnosis. It felt like my life was ending, and in a way it did. When I next opened my eyes, Clara was there, resplendent in a wedding dress. Her first words were a demand for an additional $2 million as dowry, a condition for her to proceed with the marriage. Without a second thought, my gaze fell upon the bridesmaid standing nearby. "Lucy," I said, taking her hand, "marry me. I swear on my life, I will treat you with respect and love for all the days we have." Lucy, it turned out, had harbored feelings for me for years, a fact I only truly grasped in the face of my own mortality. When I couldn't meet Clara's exorbitant dowry demands, it was Lucy who anonymously sent money through a mutual acquaintance. When my house wasn't deemed grand enough to satisfy Clara, Lucy secretly arranged for a friend to loan me a more suitable property. Even the seemingly endless stream of demands from Clara, including the nanny and various luxuries, were quietly fulfilled by Lucy's secret efforts. And I, in my blindness, attributed it all to the generosity of my good buddy Ethan. I had welcomed Ethan into my home and my business. I had allowed him to become close to Clara. I was utterly oblivious when Clara became pregnant with Ethan's child, foolishly believing it was mine. The realization of this treachery brought tears to my eyes, and I knelt before Lucy, my vow to her strengthening with each painful memory. "Lucy," I pleaded, "if you are willing to marry me today, Jerry will dedicate his life to loving you. But if your heart lies elsewhere, I won't pressure you. Just grant me the chance to win your affection in time." Before I could finish speaking, Lucy cut me off, her own eyes welling with tears, her body trembling slightly. "I do," she whispered. Her simple affirmation filled me with an overwhelming joy. I couldn't wait to take this incredible woman home and cherish her as she deserved. But the other occupants of the room were in shock. Clara's mother bit her lip, her voice laced with disapproval. "Jerry, what do you mean? $2 million for the dowry, and now you're backing out on Clara? I've always spoken so highly of you to her. You've truly disappointed me." Clara's father, his face flushed with anger, added, "This wedding, the hotel, the cars, the house, it has all cost millions. And $2 more million breaks you? At this crucial moment you abandon Clara and just grab some other woman to marry? Are you trying to shame us all, or just yourself?" Ethan, the supposed friend, chimed in with a dismissive wave of his hand. "Come on, Jerry, it's just $2 million. Sell your parents' house, it's possible. You just need to write an IOU. We're all practically family. It's like moving money from one pocket to another. No big deal." In my past life, I had listened to Ethan's insidious advice and signed that IOU. Clara's parents had used it ruthlessly, forcing my elderly parents to sell their home in court. The wedding expenses had already drained their savings, leaving them with nothing. After the wedding, I had naively handed over all my earnings to Clara. This meant my parents couldn't afford a decent care facility and ended up suffering in a rundown place. They passed away within 2 years of my wedding. While packing their meager belongings, I discovered evidence of their mistreatment. They had reached out to me, but I, blinded by my trust in Clara and Ethan, had dismissed their pleas as melodramatic. Looking back, my foolishness was staggering. I had hurt the people I loved most for these deceitful individuals. Now, Clara herself joined the attack, her voice laced with threat. "Jerry, if you leave this room today, you had better never show your face before me again." Clara, still in her pristine white wedding dress, sat on the bed, surrounded by auspicious symbols like dates and peanuts. Her usually elegant face was now contorted with rage. In the past, seeing her like this would have made my resolve crumble, bowing to placate her. But now, I was finally done indulging her whims. I held Lucy's hand tighter, offering her a sincere smile. "Thank you, Lucy," I said, my voice filled with gratitude. "Thank you for believing in me." Tears of joy, a sight I had rarely witnessed, glistened in her bright eyes. I turned my gaze towards Clara, a cold sneer replacing my former deference. "Get off that bed," I commanded. "It's no longer yours." She gasped, her eyes widening in disbelief. "What did you say?" I addressed not only Clara, but everyone in the room associated with her, my voice firm and resolute. "I arranged this wedding room and rented it from the hotel. The bride is no longer Clara. Lucy has just accepted my proposal, so Clara, kindly get off that bed. I won't keep my bride waiting." Clara's face flushed from red to an alarming shade of blue. "Jerry, you're not serious." "When have I ever jokingly dealt with you?" I retorted. "You? You?" she stammered, pointing a trembling finger at me and then at Lucy, but I brushed her hand away dismissively. Without hesitation, I called out to my friends. "Guys, I'm getting my bride! Let's get this place sorted!" My friends responded promptly, with spirited cheers. Many of them were fellow soldiers from my time in the military, towering figures exuding an indomitable presence. They had witnessed the injustices I had endured and were already eager to stand by me. Now was their moment for action, and their determined faces made it clear they were not to be trifled with. Clara's entourage looked like frightened rabbits in comparison, not daring to utter a single word, especially given Clara's obvious wrongdoing. Before her parents could even attempt to intervene, their supporters silently slipped away, one by one. Clara's parents, however, were not so easily deterred. They tried to reason with me, to guilt-trip me, but I had no interest in listening to their manipulative words. I simply had my friends escort them out of the room. As for Clara, who stubbornly refused to vacate the large bed, my friends did the honors of tossing her off, bedsheets and all. Clara was furious, her voice rising to a shriek. "Jerry, you're insane! Open the door! I swear you'll regret this. Me agreeing to marry you was the best thing that ever happened to your family, and you pull this stunt? You'll be begging me one day, and I won't even look at you." No matter how loudly she yelled and pounded on the door, I kept the bridal suite locked. I immediately called in a makeup artist and arranged for a wedding dress to be rushed from a nearby store for Lucy. I stayed by her side, waiting patiently while she got ready. When she finally emerged from the fitting room, she was breathtakingly beautiful, far more radiant than Clara had ever been. It was then that I realized Lucy had been deliberately downplaying her beauty all along, always standing in the shadows, playing second fiddle to Clara. I stepped forward and gently took Lucy in my arms. I could feel her nervousness, her uncertainty, and I knew it stemmed from my past blindness, my failure to see the one who had always been there for me. "Jerry," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I don't know why, but I'm scared." I squeezed her hand reassuringly. "Yeah," I admitted. "Today's wedding is kind of sudden. Normally I would court you properly, let you slowly come to accept me. But Lucy, I can't wait. I can't wait to make you my bride. I'm scared if I wait any longer, someone else will take you away from me." Holding Lucy close, we walked step by step towards the wedding hall. Though the guests were understandably bewildered by the sudden change of bride, thankfully my parents went along with it, their relief palpable. After the ceremony, they pulled me aside, having heard the tumultuous events in the bridal suite. They both took a deep breath. "We've had concerns about Clara for a while now," my mother said quietly. "I suppose it all worked out for the best." My father placed a hand on my shoulder. "Now about Lucy, son. Don't you ever let her down." I nodded earnestly, my heart filled with a newfound resolve. Later that day, Lucy and I obtained our marriage license. It was then that I learned Lucy was an orphan, but her parents had left her a considerable fortune. now that we're married," she said softly, her eyes filled with sincerity. "What's mine is yours. I know the wedding took a toll on your finances. Here, she offered me a substantial sum. Use this for your business endeavors. Our future depends on you." Her generosity brought tears to my eyes. Compared to Clara's constant demands, Lucy felt like an angel. "Lucy," I whispered, my voice thick with emotion. "I love you. I will spend the rest of my life loving you." That night, Lucy and I held each other close until we drifted off to sleep, a sense of peace finally settling over me. The next morning, I woke up early to prepare breakfast for Lucy. While she ate, I tidied the apartment, did the laundry, and took out the trash. I wanted to show her my love through actions, not just empty words. After she finished eating, I drove her to work. As soon as Lucy's figure disappeared into the company building, an unwelcome presence materialized. Clara emerged from the subway, spotted me, and strutted over in her high heels, hands on her hips, wearing the same disdainful expression I had grown so weary of. "Jerry," she sneered. "Now you come looking for me, isn't it a bit late?" I simply chuckled at her arrogance. "Who said I was looking for you?" "Oh, please," she scoffed. "After your little stunt last night, you must regret it, right? Missing out on me and making a fool of yourself. I almost thought you had some guts, but here you are, crawling back to me." I didn't want to lay a hand on her, so I turned to leave, forcing myself to suppress my rising anger. But Clara grabbed my arm, her grip surprisingly strong. She slapped me hard across the face, a full-fledged blow that sent a stinging heat through my cheek. Before I could react, she tugged at my tie like a leash, dragging me towards the building. "Get in here," she commanded, her voice sharp. "Get on your knees and bark like a dog saying you were wrong all day. Maybe that'll calm me down a bit. And if you want me back, 200,000 isn't going to cut it. Sell your parents' house, your company, and bring another 1,000,000 to my folks. Then I'll consider being your girlfriend again. Kissing and sleeping together will be off limits. I'll let you hold my hand at most. If you propose again, that ring better be Cartier's newest." I couldn't care less about the insane ramblings spewing from her mouth. I pulled my tie free, straightened my clothes, and prepared to walk away. Clara clearly intended to insult and demean me, but just then, I noticed the building's owner, Mike, approaching. "Mike," I greeted him, trying to keep my voice even. "Didn't expect to see you here." Mike's voice easily overshadowed Clara's shrill tone. She turned and hesitated at the sight of him. Mike walked towards me and shook my hand warmly. "Jerry, been meaning to meet you. Glad you're here today." I glanced at Clara, then back at Mike. "Just a chance encounter with a mad dog dragged me in." "Jerry, who are you calling a mad dog?" Clara protested, but Mike's presence seemed to quell her usual aggression. Mike, seeing the situation, turned to me. "Let's chat on the side, finish up our last discussion," he suggested, a knowing glint in his eyes. I decided to play along. We moved over to a set of chairs. "Clara," Mike said, his tone casual but authoritative. "I'm heading up. You're busy, but—" As she turned to leave, Mike stopped her. "Get us 2 coffees." She hesitated. "Mike, I'm the receptionist." Mike smirked. "Receptionists get coffee, don't they?" Clara gritted her teeth and shot a venomous glare at me before finally going to get the coffee. Once she returned with the drinks, I didn't say a single word, but Mike clearly picked up on the tense atmosphere. "Clara," he said, his voice now firm, "go clean the floor. Make it shine." Clara flatly refused. "Mike, I'm the receptionist, not the janitor." Mike snorted. "Do it or leave. Without even a college degree, I've already been too generous making you a receptionist. If it wasn't for Jerry, do you really think you'd be in my company?" Clara's face turned a furious red. "Jerry, are you just going to watch Mike bully me?" I shrugged, a slight sneer playing on my lips. "Mike, your employee is hilarious. The boss asks her to do something, and she calls it bullying." Mike gave me a brief smile, then turned a stern gaze back to Clara. "Now you're reassigned to the cleaning department. Go change into the uniform and clean this lobby 100 times. "I won't." Clara straightened up defiantly. "Fine." Mike raised his voice, spelling it out. "You want to quit? Go to finance and calculate how much you owe us for breaching your labor contract. Once it's settled, you can leave whenever you want." Mike's words reminded Clara of the labor contract she had signed when she got the job through my influence. It stipulated a monthly salary of $30,000, with $1 million penalty if she was fired, and likewise, if she quit on her own, she would have to pay the company $1 million. $30,000 a month was an absurdly high salary for a receptionist. Mike had only agreed to it out of respect for me. But Clara, worried Mike might change his mind, had insisted on including that hefty penalty clause. The thought of that $1 million penalty turned Clara's face green. She looked at me, desperation in her eyes. "Jerry, you cover that $1 million for me, or I'll never forgive you." I laughed mirthlessly. "Why should I pay you $1 million? Just go clean the floors and don't make Mike call the police." "Jerry, are you really breaking up with me?" she asked, her voice laced with a hint of panic. "Didn't we break up long ago?" I replied flatly. "I'm married now." I even showed her my wedding ring for emphasis. She started to cry, but stubbornly refused to budge. In the end, Mike had to call the cleaning supervisor to physically remove her and make her change clothes. All morning I watched Clara wiping away tears while being scolded by the supervisor. She looked pitiful, but also I couldn't help but feel she deserved it. I realized I had placed her on far too high a pedestal all these years. And now she seemed to lack any self-awareness. After wrapping up my meeting with Mike, he assured me, "Don't worry, Jerry. As long as Clara works for me, I'll take good care of her. In her new role." I gave him a faint smile of thanks, but as soon as I got into my car, a cleaning, uniform-clad Clara rushed over to me again. She grabbed my ears, yanking at my clothes, her eyes as red as cherries. I felt a surge of fury and wanted to push her away, but she suddenly collapsed into my arms, clinging tightly. "Jerry," she sobbed, her tone softening. "Are you really abandoning me?" "You used to do whatever I asked," she continued, her voice laced with tears. "And now you let Mike treat me like this? Jerry, do you or do you not consider me your wife?" She went on, trying to sound more appealing. "I know you want me to give in, so here I am doing it. I can't forget you. I can't move on. Let's reconcile. I'll marry you. Just give my parents $1 million and I'll be yours forever. I'll even quit my job to stay at home for you. Isn't that what you want?" She then launched into a litany of expenses she expected me to cover. The house, the cars, her parents' health care and retirement. "I won't work at Mike's anymore," she pleaded. "It's humiliating." She even had the audacity to suggest she work at my company, wanting to be the CEO's wife. Seeing her utter shamelessness, I scoffed and firmly pushed her away. She was acting like a clingy, unwanted bandage. In the past, she had often used her body to appease me after a fight, expecting me to compensate her with whatever money pleased her. "Jerry, I know you can't live without me," she teased, starting to unbutton her uniform. "Car or hotel?" The sight was nauseating. I grabbed her janitor uniform, threw it out of the car, and locked the doors. "Clara," I said firmly, "keep what little dignity you have left. I have a wife now. One more incident of this harassment, and I will call the police." And with that, I drove off, ignoring her frantic shouts. She continued to call and text me incessantly, sending disgusting messages that dredged up private moments from our past. turning them into something cheap and degrading. When I arrived at work, I blocked her on every platform. Her parents even showed up at the office, hurling insults and accusations. They called me a rapist for supposedly violating their daughter and accused me of stealing their dowry, house, and car. I had security deal with them, and when that wasn't enough, I involved the police. My lawyer sent them a cease and desist letter, and I was prepared to sue for defamation. It wasn't until the authorities intervened that Clara's parents finally quieted down, though they left with a palpable air of resentment. God knows what they would say about me outside, but honestly, I no longer cared. As long as I was away from Clara and her toxic influence, this second chance at life would not be wasted. It was then that Ethan sauntered into my office, wearing his usual air of misplaced concern. He gave me a serious look. "Jerry, I know you're still upset about yesterday, but making Clara a janitor and going after her parents, isn't that a bit much?" I glanced at my so-called good buddy with a cold smirk. "So, what do you think I should do?" He adopted a thoughtful expression, seemingly deep in contemplation. After a moment, a solution seemed to dawn on him. "Why don't you go to the bank with me now? Withdraw all the money you have, see if you can get a loan against your house and company, and take all the cash to Clara's parents. Hand it over respectfully, then beg for forgiveness by kneeling a few times. Buy Clara some jewelry and let her have a shopping spree on your credit card. That way her parents and Clara might not be mad at you anymore." He continued, his voice laced with an air of authority. "But that's just to stop them from being angry. Earning their forgiveness might require more effort from you. You'd need to go to Clara's every day, cook, do laundry, and clean for her parents. Clara likes wearing high heels, so you'd better be prepared to massage her feet every night. If you don't step up, I doubt Clara will agree to marry you again. She's such a delicate girl. You need to take responsibility for her." He kept rambling on, oblivious to my growing disbelief. When I didn't respond, he swallowed and asked, a hint of uncertainty in his voice, "Jerry, do you think there's something wrong with what I'm saying?" I shook my head slowly. "How do you know Clara needs someone to massage her feet every night? Have you done it?" He was visibly startled, a blush creeping up his neck. "No, Clara's your girlfriend. Was your girlfriend. How could I? That's crossing the line." I chuckled softly, a humorless sound. "Oh, maybe I'm overreacting." He took a deep breath, attempting to regain his composure. "You love Clara so much. You've made it through the past 2 years. You have to keep proving you love her just as much in the future. Didn't you once say you wanted to be a responsible man?" I nodded curtly. "Yeah. Well, being a good man is tough, but I think you've got a knack for it. Why don't you try—" He frowned slightly. I tossed a file onto his lap. "You're so invested in others' family issues. Look at the mess you've made yourself. You screwed up this deal, and now they're demanding $5 million in damages. Pay up." He snatched the file, his face draining of color as he scanned the contents. "No way, Jerry. I missed this clause in the contract. How can it be $5 million? $5 million is a lot." "But didn't you just buy a car and a house?" I replied with a flat tone. "You could mortgage them and pay it off." He grew increasingly anxious. "But those were hard to buy, Jerry. Help me out with the $5 million. You were just advising I give all my money to Clara's family. How can I help you if I do that?" He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "No, I meant settle my $5 million first. Any leftover can go to Clara's parents. How does that sound?" I looked at him coldly, the last vestiges of our former friendship dissolving. "Ethan, is Clara's shamelessness learned from you? You spend my money, use my resources, and still think I owe you everything. Get a grip, Ethan." "Come on, Jerry, what do you mean? Aren't we still good friends? You're really going to end our friendship over $5 million? I stood up from my chair, realizing there was nothing more to be said. I had security escort him out of my office and fired him in front of the entire staff. I expected my actions to cause a stir among my coworkers, but instead they openly expressed relief. "Finally, you saw Ethan's true colors," one of them said, shaking their head. I was taken aback. They continued, their voices filled with a mixture of frustration and vindication. "We've been saying he's no good for ages. He's always sneaking around trying to get away with things. Remember the coffee and milk in the break room that seemed to disappear so quickly? Ethan was selling it. And he's been taking office paper and supplies for his personal use. For someone with such a high salary, he does absolutely no work, just hovers around you all day. You should have fired him sooner," another colleague chimed in, their voice laced with anger. "Ethan even harassed female co-workers. There are videos of it on the company's security cameras. We hope he gets taken to court for it." I listened, my expression unreadable, a cold fury building within me. "Then do it," I said, my voice low and steady. "Sue him." My coworkers were visibly shocked. I continued, my gaze hardening. "I misjudged him before. Now I know Ethan's true nature. If he did what you're saying, I won't let it slide. He will face the consequences. If any of those he harassed are still around, or if you have their contact information, I'll get them a lawyer." My colleagues erupted in cheers, a wave of relief washing over the office. The security team immediately reviewed the surveillance footage, and the findings were even more damning than I had imagined. Ethan had even engaged in inappropriate behavior with Clara within the office premises. Gathering this evidence, I was determined to ruin Ethan financially, just as he had tried to ruin me in my past life. This time, he would not get away with anything. After handing the evidence over to the police, my phone rang. It was Lucy, and she was crying hystethanally. "My heart, Lucy, what's wrong?" I asked, my voice filled with immediate concern. Her broken voice came through the receiver. "Jerry, come quick! Make them understand I'm not the other woman. I swear I'm not." Her voice shattered with sobs. My heart ached with worry. "Lucy, hang in there. I'm coming right now." I jumped into my car and floored the accelerator, the speedometer quickly climbing. A little over 10 minutes later, I reached my company's building. As I rode the elevator up, I overheard a hushed conversation between two employees. "Do you know that Lucy?" one asked. "She's our company's designer. They say she's a homewrecker." "Really? She seems so low-key," the other replied. "Apparently she seduced Clara's husband. There's a fight upstairs now, a fight between two women, yeah. Clara brought her family and even pinned Lucy to the ground. No one's daring to call the cops. Who knows what state Lucy's in now?" Suppressing my mounting rage, I shouted, "What are you talking about? Lucy's no homewrecker. She's my lawfully wedded wife." The two chatting employees froze, speechless at my outburst. As soon as the elevator doors opened, I rushed inside. What I saw sent a shockwave of fury through me. Lucy was pinned Jerry Clara's parents, struggling desperately to get up. I dashed across the room, shoving Clara's parents aside with a force born of pure rage, and scooped Lucy into my arms. "Jerry, tell them I am not a homewrecker," she sobbed, looking as though she was about to faint. Seeing the bruises already forming on her face made my blood boil. I glared intensely at Clara and her parents, my stare seeming to momentarily shake their aggression, but they quickly regained their bravado. "Jerry, this woman ruined your marriage and seduced you!" Clara's mother shrieked. "As elders, can't we teach her a lesson?" Her father chimed in, his face contorted with anger. "Clara was with you first. So why are you messing around with this woman? Talk some sense here. Clara won't marry you now. Just pay us $1 million and we're done. Otherwise we'll accuse you of rape. You raped our Clara. Our girl was defiled and humiliated and you must compensate." Their threats continued, growing more outrageous with each passing moment. But while they were spewing their venom, Mike had already set up a massive projector in the office. He played the videos I had given to the police ahead of time. The screen flashed with clips of Ethan and Clara together, followed by footage of Clara's parents making their absurd demands for a bridal gift. There were even recordings of them bad-mouthing me at my company countless times. Ethan's voice echoed through the room. "Once you're pregnant, let Jerry raise the kid." Clara's voice followed, laced with mocking laughter. "Aren't you worried it's not purely your child? What if it picks up Jerry's genes, too?" Ethan chuckled. "Don't worry, Jerry's such a pushover. Just tell him it's your time of the month. He'll never know. Once the child's born, get Jerry to hand over the finances. I'll mortgage his company and we'll be together in no time." Clara giggled in his arms. "You're brilliant. Now come here." With these disgusting scenes playing out for everyone to see, no one dared to label Lucy the homewrecker. Clara and her family found themselves publicly humiliated, the targets of the crowd's collective disgust. "Wow, this girl's disgusting," someone exclaimed. "Cheating and then blaming someone else. They wanted a $2 million bridal gift," another voice chimed in. "Good thing Jerry dodged a bullet with this bride." Sickening. Pretending to be so posh when all they care about is money. "Call the cops. This beating is assault. They should do time for this." Clara even tried to flirt with Mike once, but it didn't work. How gross is that? Everyone in the office was chiming in, their voices filled with outrage. Clara and her parents looked as though they wanted the floor to swallow them whole. But I wasn't about to let them escape so easily. They had hurt Lucy, and they needed to pay for it. The police arrived, and with everyone's testimonies and the damning video evidence, Clara and her parents were taken into custody. I went with Lucy to the hospital, while Mike handled the situation at the police station, keeping me updated via video call. "Jerry, don't worry," Mike assured me, his face grim. "I'll make sure Clara and her parents are charged with intentional assault." He also demanded compensation for the damage they had caused at the office, citing lost productivity and property damage. As for Lucy's injuries, Mike, as her boss, demanded compensation for her medical costs, lost wages, and emotional distress. "Sure, we'll pay," Clara scoffed, still defiant despite the circumstances. "It's just one person. How much could it be?" She still refused to acknowledge any wrongdoing, her brief embarrassment quickly fading. Mike laid out all the compensation claims before the police. 3 computers got damaged, special ones for designers. Each costs $10,000, so that's $30,000 right there. "What kind of junky computer costs $10,000? Clara fired back, her disbelief evident. Mike smirked. "The computer's worth is the least of our concerns. What matters is that they stored years' worth of designs. Losing them means losing clients' trust, and that's not counting this year's ongoing projects, some nearing completion." Clara bit her lip, frustrated. "Mike, you're ripping us off." But Mike ignored her. He told the police, "We designed private villas. Each project takes months and brings in huge orders, which should factor into the compensation. Oh, and Lucy's injuries. She'll be off work for a while, and it's not the company's burden. Lucy earns $10,000 a month here. With leave and recovery costs, $100,000 sounds fair." Clara's parents looked utterly stunned. $100,000 for Lucy? Are you crazy? The two of them started arguing heatedly. The police simply took their statements, leaving Clara alone to deal with the mounting consequences. While trying to weasel her way out of the situation, Clara desperately tried to contact me, but I had already blocked her number. Under pressure from Mike, and facing the overwhelming evidence, she had no choice but to sign the $1 million compensation form related to her breached contract. After we left the police station, Clara and her parents undoubtedly planned to skip out on paying, but the police had their methods. They auctioned off everything under Clara's name, including her house, car, and jewelry. The thought of all the gifts I had given Clara over the years made my blood boil. Lucy comforted me, her gentle voice soothing my anger. "It's not worth the trouble anymore," she said softly. Since Clara was left with nothing, there was no point in dwelling on the past. Holding Lucy close and listening to her calming voice helped ease my fury. My only remaining worry was that Clara wouldn't stop bothering me until she truly learned her lesson. Lucy reassured me that Clara wouldn't get anything more from me. Once she found a new target, she would undoubtedly forget all about me. And she was right. Clara got married again a month later, still pregnant. She married a local rich man who had plenty of money, but lacked in looks and height. He simply hoped she would give him a healthy son. A few months later, Clara gave birth prematurely to a son. Clara and I were supposed to have nothing more to do with each other, but fate had other plans. The private hospital where she gave birth was the same one where Lucy had her prenatal checkups. We bumped into Clara by chance, and she immediately launched into a tirade of insults directed at Lucy, right in front of me. Lucy was pregnant, and I didn't want to upset her, so I refrained from confronting Clara then and there. Instead, I discreetly took a sample of the baby's hair for a paternity test. A few hours later, I received the results and promptly sent them to Clara's new husband. That night, Clara, still recovering in the hospital, was unceremoniously kicked out. The hot-headed rich man, enraged by the revelation of her infidelity, beat her severely on the street. If the police hadn't intervened, I'm not sure she would have survived. The next day, news of Clara's cheating and the brutal assault hit the headlines. The reports detailed her broken ribs, ruptured uterus, and the disfigurement of her face. Lucy saw the news and sighed. I never thought Clara would still be causing trouble at this point. She could have had a good life, but it's such a waste. People just aren't the same anymore. I caressed Lucy's growing belly soothingly. She brought this on herself, I said quietly, giving up a good life for silly, selfish dreams. Lucy nodded in agreement, then suddenly asked, "Do you know who the kid's father is?" I was puzzled. "It's definitely not me." Lucy said, "I trust you. I just wondered if she can't go back to the rich guy, who would be the father. She'll have to find the kid's dad eventually. Ethan's in jail, so it's probably not him, but who knows?" Time passed, and Lucy's due date drew near. On the way to the hospital, we saw Clara in the distance, holding a baby and frantically chasing after a man, shouting that he was the father. I had never seen this man before, but his expensive clothes indicated he was wealthy. He simply laughed at Clara, telling her to have some self-respect, and calling her names. According to him, she had approached his brother before him, and now she was on to someone else to falsely claim as the father of her child. Clara pleaded for a DNA test, but the man couldn't be bothered. He slapped her hard across the face and dumped her in a nearby trash can, saying that's where she belonged. The car drove too fast for us to see what happened next. After Lucy gave birth to our twins, a boy and a girl, my parents came to visit. They mentioned some unsettling rumors about Clara. Apparently, she was now reduced to chasing random men on the street, desperately claiming they were the father of her child, while her infant son had tragically passed away due to her neglect. Mike, ever the loyal friend, provided us with generous compensation for the ordeal Clara and her family had put Lucy through. As for Clara's parents, they suffered a significant blow after these events, eventually ending up in a less than desirable nursing home. But as Lucy wisely said, it was no longer our problem. I invited my parents in to see their new grandchildren. Lucy held our beautiful twins, perfectly completing our family. My parents played with the babies, their faces beaming with joy, while I stood by Lucy's side, my heart overflowing with happiness and gratitude. "Thank you, Lucy," I whispered, my voice filled with love. "I love you."